Welcome to the short Legricon presentation on the South African Occupational Health and Safety Act, Construction Work Permit Requirements. The construction work permit requirements have been the topic of many heated debates, and through this presentation we aim at answering the question: when is a construction permit required? Should you have any questions after this presentation, please contact us by visiting www.legricon.co.za and we will assist you as soon as possible. If you wish to obtain more detail regarding the services Legricon provides, please also visit our website. Let's start with a little bit of background on construction in South Africa. The construction industry, and more specifically occupational health and safety within this industry, has for the last couple of years been a focus area for the Department of Employment and Labor, due to the high number of fatalities and injuries within this industry. According to the Department of Employment and Labor, at least 2 construction workers die every week on construction sites. The main reason for this high level of fatalities is purely blamed on non-compliance with legislative requirements by clients, agents and construction companies operating in our country. In order to manage this aspect, the first construction regulations were published on the 18th of July 2003. And the revised construction regulations, 2014 was published on the 7th of February 2014. These regulations apply when construction work is performed and place onerous responsibilities on the client, designers, principal contractor and contractors involved with construction work. The aim of this regulation is to establish measures which will afford persons occupational health and safety protection during the performance of construction work. Measures have been implemented to alert the Department of Employment and Labor when construction work is performed, to enable the department to check on compliance. These are contained in the Notification and Construction Work Permit Requirements. The South African OSH Act, Construction Regulation 3, deals with the application for construction work permits. It is the responsibility of the client, the person for whom construction work is performed, to obtain the construction work permit when required. Regulation 3.1 indicates that the client must at least 30 days before that work is to be carried out, apply to the provincial director in writing for a construction work permit. It should be noted that it is a criminal offense if construction is performed without such permit when a permit was required. The regulation indicates that the permit is only required if the intended construction work A. exceed 180 days, or B. will involve more than 1,800 person days of construction work. Or C. the works contracted is of a value equal to or exceeding 13 million rand or CIDB grading level 6. The CIDB refers to the Construction Industry Development Board, which has been established in terms of the Construction Industry Development Board Act, Act 38 of 2000. The Construction Industry Development Board Act indicates in Section 18 that a contractor may not undertake, carry out or complete any construction works or portion thereof for public sector contracts, unless he or she is registered with the board and holds a valid registration certificate issued by the board. Contractors must register in a specific grade, between grade 2 and 9. Each grade represents a specific tender value, as discussed later in the presentation. A contractor may only perform public sector contracts of a tender value equal or 1 grade higher than its registration. The grading in which the contractor can register is determined by considering, firstly, the best annual turnover, the largest contract value, and the contractor's available capital. The table reflected illustrates this aspect. This part of Construction Regulation 3 is, however, not currently applicable. The Chief Inspector of the Department of Employment and Labor granted a temporary exemption on the 17th of August 2018, pertaining to the application for construction work permits as contemplated in the construction regulations. The temporary exemption indicates that a client who intends to have construction work carried out must at least 30 days before that work is to be carried out, apply to the provincial director in writing for a construction work permit. The construction work permit is only required if the intended construction work starts after the 7th of August 2018 and 1. will exceed 365 days and will involve more than 3,600 person days of construction work, or 2. the tender value limit is a grade 7, 8 or 9 CIDB grading. The first condition that triggers the requirement to obtain a construction work permit is that the project must both exceed 365 days and 3,600 person days. It is not either or, but both. To summarize, the first requirement under which the client must obtain the construction work permit consist of three criteria which all must be met. Number 1. The intended construction work starts after the 7th of August 2018. Secondly, the project exceed 365 days. Thirdly, the project will exceed 3,600 person days. When all three criteria are met, a construction work permit is required. The second condition that triggers the requirement to obtain a construction work permit relates to the tender value limits prescribed by the Construction Industry Development Board. As indicated previously, the temporary exemption reflects when the tender value limit is grade 7, 8 or 9 of the CIDB grading, a construction permit is required for the specific project. It should be noted that the exemption does not indicate if the limit referred to is the upper or lower limit of the specific CIDB grading. On the 5th of July 2019, the Department of Public Works published adjusted CIDB tender value ranges for contractors. The ranges are now as follows. Grading 1 is less than, or equal to 500,000 Rand. Grading 2 is less than, or equal to 1 million Rand. And so forth as indicated. From this table it is derived, that the CIDB grading level 7, for 60 million Rand is an upper limit of contract values for which a contractor in such a grading can tender for. The lower limit is therefore above 20 million Rand, since grading level 6 stops at an upper limit of 20 million Rand. This clearly indicates that level 7 is between 20 and 60 million Rand, and not above 60 million Rand. Similarly, level 8 is accordingly between 60 and 200 million Rand and cannot be above 200 million Rand. In summary, the client must obtain the construction work permit if two criteria are met. Firstly, the intended construction work starts after the 7th of August 2018, and secondly, the tender value limit is grade 7, 8 or 9 of the CIDB grading. This means in terms of a strict interpretation that the project value must be greater than 20 million Rand. However, when the previous exemption published on 24th of July 2015, and the grading level at that stage are considered, the latest exemption did not bring any change to when a permit is required in terms of project value. As it is assumed that there would be no point in repealing an exemption and issuing a new one with the same requirements, Legricon submits that this is an error. Legricon communicated with the Department of Labor in this regard, and received the following response from the Director, Occupational Health and Safety for Construction, Explosives and MHI. I have noted your communication. We are considering the upper limit only 40 million Rand. Permit request therefore will start on all projects that are 40 million Rand and above. Remember, the 40 million Rand was increased to 60 million Rand July 2019. So, currently, in terms of the official notice, construction permits are required for projects with a tender value above 20 million Rand, but the stance from the Department of Employment and Labor seems to be that it is only required for projects with a value above 60 million Rand. Since the courts will always be the final arbiter in determining the application of legislation, we caution clients to carefully consider all relevant information when planning construction work. So, if the triggering requirement is only the contract value, and not the man days, the following projects will require a construction work permit according to the different interpretations. Legricon interpretation, projects above 20 million Rand. Department of Employment and Labor interpretation, projects above 60 million Rand. Two conditions exist which indicate when a construction permit is required. The first condition requires three criteria. Firstly, the intended construction work starts after the 7th of August 2018, and secondly, the project exceed 365 days, and thirdly, the project will exceed 3,600 person days. The second condition requires: firstly, the intended construction work starts after the 7th of August 2018, and secondly, the tender value limit is grade 7, 8 or 9 of the CIDB grading. Meaning in terms of the Legricon interpretation, projects at or above 20 million Rand, or Department of Employment and Labor interpretation, projects at or above 60 million Rand. This brings us to the end of this presentation, and please, contact us with your questions or suggestions for other topics you want us to address. Be compliant, be safe, and protect the environment. Legricon, your legal risk and compliance consultants.